Howdy historians, how you doing? Mr. Montgomery here, going to walk you through a guide today for how to make a study schedule for your semester exams. Hopefully this will help you get organized and get prepared for your semester exams so that way you can be successful. Remember, the separation is in the preparation. Those who are prepared are successful. Nothing will work unless you do, so make sure that you set a schedule, you work at that schedule, make adjustments as needed, so that way you can do well in your semester exams. Semester exams do not have to be stressful. If you make a good plan, you stick with it, and you make adjustments as needed, before you know it, you realize that exams are really just about preparation, and you don't need to stress out about them. As long as you're prepared, you'll do well. If you've been doing well in your classes throughout the semester, you're going to do well too. So don't let exams be bigger than they really are. They're important, but they're not going to ruin your life, and they don't need to stress you out to the point where you're not getting sleep and you're losing hair, right? So make a plan, stick to it. Remember to do some of the healthy things like eat good food, stay hydrated, work this plan so that way you can also be getting 8 hours of sleep a night, good, quiet, continuous music on in the background when you study, and avoid those distractions. Work for 30 minutes. Take a 5-minute break. Don't have your phone sitting out. Have like lo-fi hip-hop radio on YouTube going or something like that, or some good classical music playing. So it's a continuous list. You're not hunting for songs every 5 minutes, but remove the distractions. Don't have Grey's Anatomy or The Office or Friends playing in the background, because then all you're really doing is listening to music, being on your phone, or watching Netflix while you study, right? You're not studying. You're doing those other things. So give yourself some focused time here, make a good schedule, and before you know it, you're going to get really good at exams, which never go away. Once you get into the real world, you have presentations, you have sales meetings, you have pitches. There's all kinds of exams in your life. We just don't call them that. They're just important moments. So, without further ado, let's hop into it here. So, hopefully you have your worksheet out that I gave you, your little guide. The first thing we need to do, and you can see this version of this chart on your handout, is we need to gather some information. So the first step here, we've got to list all of our classes that have a final exam. So this can be something as simple as going through and just marking which ones you actually have an in-class exam for, right? Maybe for English you had a project, you don't have to worry there, but for everything else, yeah, you're going through and you have an exam for everything. All right, so just mark for a second there which classes you actually have exams for. Then you want to put in your approximate grade in each class. This is going to help us with some information here that will be helpful as we figure out the schedule that we want to use for our exams. So we're going to assume that you're a fantastic student because you're a dasher, and I know that you are. So in English, you've got a nice strong 94. You are a math whiz. You've got a strong 98. Foreign language, you know, you're, you know what, there's your one area where we need to do some work. You've got a B in your foreign language. Let's say theology is going well. You've got a good 96 there because you're good at math. Of course, that means they're going to be good at science. And that Greece and Rome test bit you a little bit for social studies. It hit you hard, so you've got an 89 there. So now what you want to think about next after you've got your grades, and we're going to come back to why it's important to have your grades in a second. You need to next think about, are any of these classes ones where you're kind of on a ledge? Are you close to a big bump in a grade? And then you just want to think about that and mark that, because that's going to be a class that you may want to emphasize, right? Because of where your grade is. So social studies, you're right on the edge of an A, you're going to want to emphasize that. Maybe foreign language, you want to emphasize that one to also see if you can get that up to an A. All the other classes are still important, don't get me wrong. You still need to work on those, but you're not on that ledge. You're not right between a C or a B or a B and an A. So think about which ones you want to emphasize. And then what we've got to do is we've got to think about how many hours we want to study for each course. A good way to do this is think about the number of units that you've had, right? How many, that's not hashtag, that's number. How many units have you had, right? And then think about how long you want to study for each unit. So for social studies, like for cultures and civ, we've got 6 units that you're going to have on your semester exam. For units 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, right, they're relatively small units. Cultures and civilizations, the Middle Ages, oh, excuse me, let me actually switch that up. No, sorry. It's Units 1, what are cultures and civilizations? Unit 4, the Middle Ages. Unit 5, the Renaissance. 6, the Reformation. Those are relatively small units. Ancient Greece, Unit 2. Rome, Unit 3. Those are bigger. Maybe you're going to do 30 minutes each for these, and then you're going to do 1 hour for each one of those units. And then you know you've got some maps and some vocab there. So with your KT, PTK, and your map, that's going to add in 1 more hour. Right? So then as we go through there, that's 1 hour, 2 hour, 3, 4, and then we're going to throw another one in the night before, so there you'd want to do 5 hours, right? Maybe for science you've had 5 units, you want to do an hour each, right? So that would be 5 hours. Foreign language, you've had 4 units, but you want to emphasize that one, so you're going to add an extra hour in there, you're going to do 5, right? So you just need to go through. You know, I would say you want to do probably about 4 to 8 hours of study for each subject, and that may seem like a big number, but when you start to break it down by your number of units, that's going to help you make a realistic goal that you're going to be able to stick to. So go ahead and pause the video for a second, get all of your grades in there, think about which classes you want to emphasize, and think about how many hours you want to study for each class. And when you're done with that, hit play again. Okay, good. So now that you've got this chart figured out, you may be thinking about, like, what do I need to get in each class to be able to move my grade, right? So, like, we know, let's roll with your social studies example. We're going to say that in social studies right now, you have an 89%, right? You can go through and you can work this equation that I have in there. You multiply your current semester 1 grade by 0.8, and then you take that number, and then you would guesstimate what you're going to get on the exam. Like if you think you're going to get a 90% on your exam, you multiply that by 0.2. You add these two numbers together, and that's going to get you your final semester 1 grade. Now, of course, there's also a website out there that can do this for you that's also pretty funny when you hop into it. So you can also go in here and use the Roger Hub Final Grade Calculator, and you can go in and make this work for you too, right? So you could hop in here and put your current grade in, what you want is your final grade, and then what your final is worth, right? They're going to be worth 20% for us, and in English, of course, that number changes a little bit. Okay, so let's say we're here, and we know that our current grade in social studies is an 89. Let's say we want to get at least an A-, right? So let's say we want to get a 93, and our final exam is worth 20%. All right, so now we can get rid of that. Let's see what I need. Oh, dang! So I would need to get 109% on my final, so maybe I can aim a little lower. Right, so then I could go back in here and I could start to play with this number a little bit. Where now I would say, all right, well, how about just get me up to that lowest A-, get me up to the 90. All right, then what do I need to get? All right, 94, right? So to get a score of 94 on the final to get a 90, that's doable, right? So this will help you, again, figure out if you need to emphasize any of them, but also kind of start to adjust your plan so that way you can figure out what you want to get. So you've played with your grades, you kind of know what you have to get, you've played with the calculator, and you're starting to understand your grade and the exam's impact. We have filled out our chart, so that way we know our current grade in each class, we know how many hours we want to study, and which ones we need to emphasize. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to put together this schedule. Right? So on the bottom line there, you can see what exams are on which day. Okay? Now we're just going to go through and we're going to start to put all the hours in that we want to study. All right? And what I like to do, I think the best way to do it is to start at the end and work backwards. All right? So I'm filming this video on Wednesday up here. So I know that's going to be my start day right there. All right? And I'm going to work backwards towards that date. All right? That's what I am doing in there. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. So let's go ahead and start filling some stuff in here. All right, so science. All right, I'm just going to write in a little bio here. Night before, let's say for science total I want to do 8 hours. All right, I'm going to go big the night before. Right, because I've got a lot of time during the day, and I've got a lot of time at night, so I'm going to do 3 hours there. All right, and now world language, we'll come back to in a second. But I've already got 3 hours, so I need 5 more hours of bio. All right, we're going to go back here. Let's get 1 more hour of bio there. Okay, I've got 4 hours left. And now I'm just going to try to work like an every other day method. All right, then I've got an hour of bio there. Now I'm at 5 hours. Now I'm going to come over here. Okay, I'm at 6. I'm at 7. And then you know what? Sunday, I want to stay away from that day for now because it's church. Saturday, I know I've got basketball practice. So let's do our last hour of bio here. Right? So now you know. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of bio. I've got my schedule. I know what days I'm going to be working on my biology. All right, so now let's do world language. Let's say you're doing solid. You're just going to do some practice problems with world language. You're going to work through, doing some translations, right? So now with your language, you want to do 4 hours. You're going to do 2 the night before, all right? And then you're going to back it up. You're going to do an hour of language here, and you're going to do an hour of language there. Boom, you're at 4 hours, right? And now we just keep working this system. We just keep working backwards. Let's say for English, you want to do 6 hours, right? We're going to do 2 hours the night before. We're going to slide back here on this Saturday, right? We're going to get an hour there. We're going to go here. We're going to get an hour there. We're going to pop over, get an hour here. What am I at? We're at 5 hours. And then here's my last hour of English. So you can see how this system would work, right? Theology, let's say we're also going to do 4 hours. You've got 2 there. You do theology and English together. Boom, you've got an hour there. All right, I've got an hour here. So this way you have a specific plan. And you would just keep working this system. You just go through and you go through every single class. So that way you make sure, what did we say for social studies? We're gonna do 5 hours for social studies, right? We're gonna do 5 hours for math too. Now we just work this system, right? So now for social studies, we're gonna do 2 hours here, and then we're going to just keep backing it up. We're gonna do an hour here. This is a day that looks pretty open, so let's get another hour in there. This day is pretty open. Let's get an hour in there. Boom, all of a sudden before you know we're at 5 hours. All right, math, night before. Let's make sure we get a solid 2 hours in there to do a bunch of problems. All right, we want to get to 5 hours here. Make sure that we've kind of got a good distribution of what we're doing on what days, so that way we're not maxing anything out too much. This Saturday I'll do a bunch of practice problems in math, figure out which ones I need to keep working on. Okay, health, let's say, we'll do that one in black too. All right, let's say we're going to do 4 hours for health, right? Okay, we've got our 2 hours here. We look for some days that are kind of open. We know Wednesdays work good for us because we don't have anything else going on. We work well on Mondays. We're all set, and then we set in our little fake example here. English was a project. So now you're set. You've got this schedule, and you can adjust this. You can add more time in. You can take some time out if you're feeling good about things. But once you have the schedule set, you have your organization. So that way when you sit down to study, you're not overwhelmed. It's not, oh my gosh, I have to study for everything. I have all these finals. And then you stack up all your books on your desk. Instead, you sit down and on Thursday you're going to study English for an hour, and you're going to study your bio, your science, your social studies for an hour, right? On Friday you're going to do an hour of bio. Saturday you're going to do 1 hour of math. You're taking Sunday off. Go to church, baby. Get a donut. And then on Monday you're coming back. You're doing 1 hour of bio, 1 hour math, 1 hour health. So that way you have a very specific plan in place. And then that way it makes it a lot easier, and it's not as overwhelming to go through this. And then if you have to adjust, you adjust. Maybe all of a sudden before you know it, this Thursday just gets wild and you realize you don't get anything done. Right? Well, then you just adjust. You shift an hour of English over here, and you take an hour of social studies and you put it over here. If you get halfway through and you realize you need to start studying more, right? Well, then you add in a little bit more time. Also realize that on your actual exam days, you have some time in the morning. Exams don't start until 9:15, and usually you're going to be done by 12:15, so you have a lot of time on those days. Make a plan, avoid distractions, get organized. and make sure that you give yourself some breaks while you're studying, and good things are going to come your way. You can do this. It's all about having a plan and sticking to it. Remember, nothing will work unless you do. That's a great John Wooden quote. Good luck, all the best. Let me know how I can help. See ya. I'm out of here.